As we all know how big this data visualization topic is. So for today's discussion, we are going to talk about how the UX principle or user-centered design principle can contribute to the visualization of data so that it can be presented in an intuitive and engaging way. Interns like this will provide users a better experience while interacting with these data. Let's start this discussion by going back and understanding the evolution of visualization from the early ages where we started carving the stories and even ideas into the rocks and to where we started representing them in the paper. So, and when the newspaper came into the picture, we started seeing this datas in much more visualized way, right? Where the hierarchy of information is so prominent and where the datas are grouped and put it in different sections and headlines being the more focused one so that the users can just read on to the headlines and decide whether they need to read the in-depth details of it. So that is where we started giving the users to feel that empowerment to take their own decisions. And now when it comes to these metro maps with much more simplicity and noise reduction, and the users can understand and take these their travel decisions much more faster. So this all simplification happens just because like we started presenting them with only the information that is really needed for them. So now we understood even like how this evolution of visualization has been a part of our evolution as well. And there are like different ways of visualizing things and representing it. So right now we are narrowing it down into information as well as the data visualization, where information visualization is something like which we see in our Google Maps when we need to travel from one place to another. So it's basically deals with abstract or non-numerical informations. It's mostly like showing the patterns and relationship between each others. And in the other hand, when it comes to data visualization, it is something which we focus more on to numerical data, right? So where these raw data numbers are converted into charts and graphs, which tells a story. So let's get into an example so that we will get more idea about it. So we'll take an example from cricket. We obviously know that we had a lot of data in cricket from earlier onwards. So when they started visualizing those data, it made it easy for the users to understand the concept and even gets insights into it. So when we see this batsman wagon wheel, it shows us direction in which he has played his shots. It's not just about how much run he is scored, but it's more about the pattern of how he plays the game and where the player is strong, whether it is onto his offside or whether it is onto the leg side of his or the straight to the ground. So this helps us quickly understand what approach that player is taking and what strategy he is building. Similarly, when it goes with the ball pitching tracker, it shows us similar thing where the ball is landing most often and whether it's a good length or it's a short length or it's a full length. And this again is something which is conveying about the placement and consistency. It helps us to see what is bowler's strength, tactics, and everything in a glance, right? So this both example, even the wagon wheel and the pitch tracker, both are a great example for information visualization. They mostly highlights the pattern and relationship with each other than the numbers. But when we start going into the next example, where we can see the graph that compares the performance of two teams. So basically, where one axis is about the runs and the other axis is about the over. So this is data visualization. This is where the focus is more on to quantitative values, like showing us clearly how one team is scoring rate is compared to the other team throughout the match. So not only in cricket, like even our world is drowning in data right now. that every click which we make and every move which we make even generates a data, and we are used to it. So let's get into few more examples where not just our clicks or movement counts, even our sleep started counting. So when we get into a sleep tracking apps, they just don't tell us like how much hours we slept. They basically helps us visualize the sleep patterns throughout our weekdays, like that. So when what happens when we combine that with a phone using usage app? Imagine a user, like he might have set a new goal, like he need to sleep from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day properly, like a good 6 hours sleep. But he might have used the phone in between. So when we check this phone usage app, it shows that between the time of sleep, this person was active on the phone. So that's an insight that tells us this practice is not healthy. Even though his intention or the thought of that person may sleep for 6 hours is a good thing, but it is not healthy when he uses a phone in between. And similarly, when we get into a fitness or exercise apps, those tracks our daily workout and even our like step goals as well. So it basically doesn't just show us the numbers, right? Mostly over here, we will get an insight on whether this user is consistent about it, whether he is having progress about it, or whether he is lacking something. So those are the things which data visualization should convey. So now if we are going into our dashboard examples, which we usually see so often as a UX professional or product development professionals. So these dashboards are meant basically to bring all our key information into one place. The whole point is here to help the users to take a quick decisions without digging deeper into reports. So that's how the reports and dashboard differs. So let's see how we can go from raw data to an actionable insights that matters to the users, and obviously it will improve their experience as well. So how we use this UX principles that will guide us to achieve the goals that user needs to. So first and foremost is nothing but defining the users first. So persona is always a key factor to consider when we design something, anything, let it be the dashboard or whatever. So the persona is a key factor in every aspect. So for an example, over here I have three personas where CEO and one is sales lead and other could be a customer supporter. So when it comes to a CEO, when he sees a dashboard, he will be expecting to see the revenue, whether it is going up or whether it is going down, so that he can decide where to focus more on. And when it comes to a sales lead, he expects to see a pipeline instantly and knows whether he need to push his sales into a regional aspect. And when it comes to customer support, manager looks at those to see if the ticket resolution is getting higher or and to act before the customer satisfaction rate is going down. So this is the importance of user research and how it plays a key role. Every user's needs will be different, and that is why we need to define the users first when we get into designing something. And we'll go to the next principle. It's nothing but visual hierarchy, like how we guide the eyes. Like it focuses on the prioritizing the information and layering the information. So prioritizing information and layering the information, it's found similar, right? How we discussed about the newspaper. Like there is a key information which is given as the heading, and the layer information will be the details of it. So it's basically helping users to dig deeper into more details if needed. So how we do both of this? Obviously through visual cues by highlighting what is mattered and using fonts, different colors, etc. So let's take an example where most of us are familiar with, the Spotify landing page. So the moment you open it, the first thing you see is the playlist that is more relevant to you, right? Like recently played or made for you. So these are bigger and right in front of your eyes. So your eye naturally goes there first. But if you need to get into details of those playlists, you need to click onto it. Over there, you will get the details of the artist, maybe the lyrics of the song. So all those are layered informations over there. So when you notice the whole screen, even the sizes of the font and how the image is more prominent in each of it. So this is exactly what we meant by visual hierarchy, like showing the most important thing first, then letting the users dig a deeper into it so that they won't feel overwhelmed with a lot of information or even data. So like when we move on to the next principle, it is mostly about errors and misinterpretations. So where this is main like where we shouldn't let the users to jump into wrong decisions. So there are a lot of cases where how we can help the users to get into right decision. For an example, how we can explain a missing data instead of making the users guessing why it is missing, and also like showing the sample sizes so that the users will understand the exact context of the complete and so that they won't be misinterpreting a lot of data, a lot of graphs. So let's see an example how most of them does it. So in this first example, imagine like here we can see a graph saying no sale data available. But imagine if there is only the thing which is written will be no sale data available. Will that help the user? Like they won't be knowing like why the sale data is not available. So just see the subtext which is available. Store was closed for renovation in March. That helped users to understand the reason without going deeper into it and seeing the same error. The data is not available. So that is how we can explain an empty graph. And if you see into the second example, we mostly orders food through online apps, right? So how do we decide from where we should order it? So it's basically like we'll be if we are not familiar with the restaurant, we'll be obviously looking into the ratings of it and we will be deciding. But just seeing the rating, will it make the decisions right? So that is how this Swiggy app is, or most of this ordering app is helping right now. They are showing the sample sizes as well as how much reviews they are putting. So even though the restaurant is having the same rating, the sample size is the one which is helping the user to take a right decision, right? So you'll go to another last example where it's also about the comparison, monthly sale comparison. So here we can see that December sale is so huge compared to January sale, right? Where a critical sale drop warning is also shown. But imagine in a case like this December can be a vacation season and the sale obviously would have peaked compared to normal months like January. So does this visualization really helps user to get the insight about it? No, right? It in fact give them a misunderstanding and misinterpretations of data. So yeah, so that's how we can tell them the context clearly and convey them the to take a right decisions basically. And now we go to the next principle. It is like noise reduction. The name speaks everything. So it is on how we can reduce the unwanted things or unwanted noise from a visualization so that it helps the users with only the details that really matters to them without overloading them. So basically we can go through an example and understand that concept better. See this visualization where there are too many noises like unwanted lines and 3D shapes used on a chart, which is often distracting and misleading, right? So let's see how it will look like when we remove those two. Simple like this chart has become more clear, but it's still confusing for the users, right? Like the values is on the left side and the bar you need to check from the right, move from left to right to left to see how much it is exactly. So how can we make it better? So now the visualization speaks more clear with the user. So there is always a possibility to improve the visualization. So Let's imagine in the same case, if the our intention is that to see 2018 as the more prominent one, and here what we are going to do is like the comparison. Imagine that is the case. So how we can reduce the noise again? See, so that is how we can reduce the noise again by focusing on to the main details which is needed. Rest everything can be something which can be used for comparisons too. So this is a great example for data visualization. And when it comes to information visualization, let's go with a classic example of London Underground maps, where the early maps on the left side is very detailed and try to stay geographically accurate. Basically, like all the dams and rivers passing through is also mentioned in that map. But that made them really messy and hard to read, right? So users had to really struggle to figure it out like which route to take. Then came the Harry Beck's redesigned version. He simplified everything. He straightened the line. He used only the 90-degree and 45-degree angles. So, and different colors for each route, and only showed the details that really mattered for the navigations. So what really happened? What the result is nothing but people could instantly understand the map and make travel decisions much more faster. This is the power of noise reduction. And when we remove the extra elements or extra things that visualization becomes more clear and visible to users. So let's move into the next principle, which is like power of the color. So how to use colors with purpose. So basically, while using color, it's not just for decoration, it is for purpose. We use colors like conveying the statuses, like error, success, could be a pending task, even for showing the trends like sales dropping or even companies growth, etc., and even flagging the issues. So we use we obviously use colors for different with purposes right now, but there is something which we need to consider about also, that is ensuring accessibility. So we have seen in most of the dashboards right now using the arrow mark up and down with a number beside it, so that it conveys the real meaning or the real story of that number itself. So that is how an icon and shape can ensure the accessibility to most of the users. So let's see this dashboard example where the colors in this review chart on the center, it helps the users to understand the difference between patient pop and before, and how the icon and shapes like plus has made it easier for the users to understand that growth is happening. And also when you see onto the sentiment section on the right side, it's basically talking about the sentiments, and that emojis literally means or shares the idea. So in this case, basically sharing an emotion is right, and they have used an emoji for that. So this is how we can use the colors and icons or even the shapes to uh, to send a lot of messages and meanings or insights about it. Now let's go into another principle, where the next principle is like about progressive disclosure. It's like showing only the things which is enough and more only when it is needed. So the process we follow is that start simple to get a bigger picture and let them explore by clicking or hovering, etc. So it is like giving users the empowerment to dig deeper into it if they need more data. So let's go to an example of another dashboard, where in this dashboard initially we can say that it's completely conveying a clear chart or graph of an active user and the revenue. But when a user needs to dig deeper into it, they have the provisions, and we have provided the provisions with a filter where they can filter down the countries or even the ad units. So this is can be a good example on how filtering can be used for better experience by giving users the power to decide what to show and explore the other possibilities too. So even in that graph, you can see like annotations when we are hovering onto the graph. which literally shows the granular details of breakdowns, right? So we'll move on to the next in principle, which is nothing but the actionable insights. This is where we transform data into decisions. So the main three questions which we need to ask is, or we need to get an answer, is always about what happened, why did it happen, and what should we do. So when we find answers to those questions, it's like going beyond a pretty chart and transforming data into decisions, which can obviously and actionable steps as well. So we'll go into a real world example related to it. Most of us might have seen the movie F1, or at least have heard about it. So that movie mostly talks about how this data is used by this team to improve in a race, or even to change the complete outcome of that race, right? So if you see this visualization, it is like comparing Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in a same track, and it shows us their braking points. And you can see obviously the Verstappen is braking slightly before Hamilton, and he is carrying more speed in the corner. Now, just by looking at this, the team can answer these three questions which we have asked. What happened, and why did it happen, and what should we do? So basically, in this case, what happened? Verstappen is gaining the time by braking early and smoothly. And why did it happen? Because his braking quality and the gravitational force he experienced was less because of that, and the speed decreased as well compared to Hamilton, who braked late and lost most of the speed and experienced more gravitational force, which is like max G force over here. So we got all those insights, or all those understandings. So what should we do is the team's decision. It could be like changing the braking tactics or change the setup of the car accordingly. So this is the power of actionable insights. The visualization doesn't just show like two lines or 2 points. It helps them, or the team, to make a decision in a real time that can change the outcome of a complete race as well. So right now we understood the UX principles, how it can implement to our designs. But let's see like what happens when a visuals fail. Imagine like we putting ourselves into a user's shoe, and we are opening a dashboard which has full of numbers and messy charts. You basically can't see what is important. So you miss a critical problem. That mistakes end up costing the company money. Later, you will stop trusting that dashboard, right? Since it's never gave you a clear or consistent insight. So one day you might act on whatever the chart may say, and the obviously the chart was misleading, and the wrong decision created was like created into a more and more problems. So eventually you will stop using that dashboard altogether. So basically a bad visuals waste your time, lose money, and break the trust as well. So now, before wrapping it up, let's think back to everything which we have covered, from the ancient cave drawing to modern dashboards. Like the goal was always the same. It was about to for the clarity. Everything was for clarity. And a good visualization tells the story or insights behind the numbers or data, and now and how to just show them. Examples like health and exercise apps, and even the sleep cycle workout comparison examples. Then the other thing was like it should be designed for the users, their needs, their goals, and the context they are in. So this really explained like how user research can contribute a lot to it. Then it was about the clean layout, which is like guiding the eye without extra noises, like our classic example of London underground maps. And then comes the color, like how we use color with purpose and just not for decorations, and how we represent errors and warning message with colors. And even we started using the icons or shapes along with the color, so to improve and ensure the accessibility part of it. And then the progressive disclosure, where the filters played a main hero part, where the users can dig deeper into it. Then finally the F1 example, that was purely like a conversion of every visual point to an action and turning insights into decision making. So yes, so once like I thought that when I got into data visualization, or when I started learning about data visualization, I thought it was mostly about presenting this complex data in an intuitive and engaging way, like we said. Then I came to know about it's more about surfacing those meaningful insights into it. So it was like they always, the intention was never to show just raw data or raw numbers. Yeah. So thank you. Thanks everyone. Just as a key takeaway from this section, good dashboard doesn't show more. They help users to see what really matters to them. So thank you.